Today we live in a world of information abundance, between truth and pseudo-truth, facts and fiction, alternative facts and reality. The internet plays a key role when disseminating information, whether sharing the results of sincere analysis or manipulating us through trolls and bots. According to Wikipedia, truth is the property of being in accord with fact or reality. To be honest, today we often define truth and reality based on our experience, based on the bubbles that we live in. Bubbles, these colorful globular shapes that can impact our lives in so many ways. When we were young, bubbles were part of our carefree lives. We all remember those harmless soap bubbles gliding iridescently across the air, waiting to be snipped by our playful fingers. As we grow older, the bubbles which surround us change to more serious and heavy bubbles with different meanings. Unfortunately, there is a certain gloomy bubble species that today is very present. The bubbles arising in the political sphere, endangering the hard-fought values of humanity. Bubbles created by opinion and personal opportunism, enhanced through the abuse of people's unawareness and communication technologies. Where people with discontent or perceived lack of appreciation meet like-minded, they feel confirmed in the truthfulness of their conclusions, which might turn toxic. With paralyzing shock, many of us observe current world events, increasing aspirations of the right wing, unworldly political leaders, or even deniers of reality. Those bubbles act unpredictably and often arise secretly. But in the worst case, they have the power to lead to war, death, and terrible destruction. Finally, there have been other eye-catching bubbles in the economic or financial sense. Everybody knows well prime examples like astronomers' asset prices, the real estate bubble leading to the last financial crisis, or the economic hype that caused the dot-com crash. Besides all negative impact of past bubbles, there is usually not only bad news to bear. With every bubble, we also experience the release of energy, the raising of enormous potential, courage, and willingness to take risks in favor of creation. So how should we treat these arising bubbles? Should we transform into childlike questionnaires that relentlessly and without any fear try to snip the bubbles? Should we uncover political and economic bubbles to understand what is behind those promises and concepts? Or should we naively hope that all these bubbles sooner or later dissolve into thin air? According to Greta Thunberg, we definitely need to act. By acting, hope would be created too. So let's start today and look at bubbles with a twist. Let us understand them as crucial game changers that help us push change movements into solutions for a better tomorrow.
Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you who are joining us in the courage to hold this event. Usually, in the last couple of years, I used to tell you, come closer. This year, unfortunately, we have to say, please keep your distance. But we will still be able to exchange our opinions, information, and to work closely together today and tomorrow. So thank you very much for being here today with us. The subject matter that we are looking at this year is bubbles and bubbles with a twist. We just heard a lot about economic bubbles and the rising of the political or social bubbles. In economical bubbles, they have been created because we are investing in a lot of money, and at a period of time where there is a low interest rate or where there is a very low inflation rate, the danger increases dramatically, leading to a lot of bubbles. And when we look at the political bubble, the type of investment here is not cash, but is our opinion, is what we do when we tweet and retweet. So what here really is the positive turn about something that we usually perceive as negative? We think, and this is what we're discussing as well with our this year's white paper, that these bubbles create as well an energy to change, and a force for transformation. Political bubbles, they are looked at in these days very intensely by scientific research. And the researchers of today start to differentiate between epistemic bubbles and echo chambering. Epistemic bubbles means an environment where people that are like-minded are not anymore exposed to other opinions, leading to a lack of information when they're taking decisions, when they're forming their opinion. The echo chambering enhances this phenomena, leading to a situation where people are proactively manipulated in order to take and trust only one certain belief. This is extremely dangerous, and this is why we're bringing this topic up here today, because we're seeing the high price that we are paying as a society when we move around only being echo chambered by social media in the one and only opinion that a group of people is presenting as the only truth to this world. What is the role of media in all of this? Media, as we know it, is enhancing the problem, but media is extremely important. It has changed over the last 20 years in terms of format, content, and source. We're looking at old media, which carries a very high cost of production when it's based on sincere and meticulous journalism. We expect this type of old media, newspapers, radio, TV, to be a source of information that we can trust, to provide information, not entertainment. It is static, it's not personalized, but it's an important source of information. When we look at new media, we see the advantage of new media being a more personalized type of information. It's very flexible, it's very actual, but it can be manipulated very easily, not just by humans, as well by bots and trolls. And here we see an issue arising since a decade, that it's opinionated, creating an unreliable source of information, and of course, starting to show disrespectfulness, even criminalfulness towards the addressee. When we look at these attributes of these two types of medias, we need to ask ourselves every day, what is the cost of information? How much are we prepared to pay for information? And cost comes not just as euros, but it comes as well as the price we pay when our society is not anymore exchanging information, is not anymore peaceful. That's a very high cost. And time is cost as well. And these are the attributes that we need to reflect upon when we wonder what source of information we should take. When we look at the question, whom should we trust? I don't have an answer to this. I think nobody really has an answer to that. But we need to evaluate the social hangover that we are experiencing when we are now understanding every day more how we are being manipulated in taking decisions based on questionable information. We saw it in a situation how the Brexit was decided upon, or many different elections these days that are highly manipulated. And we are realizing that living in bubbles is very dangerous and that we have to go back in taking the investment and taking the time to use sources of information that we can trust, that provide sober and sincere analysis, that we meet each other respectfully, and that we allow independent opinions. Being able to evaluate fact and not fiction helps us to understand the world we're living in today, and it helps us better to take decisions to create the world that we are living in tomorrow. What about economic bubbles? Are we here prepared as well to change the value system to avoid economic bubbles? That is going to be a very interesting question as we move forward in the venture capital ecosystem development. Economic bubbles, as we know them today, are always based on too much, possibly, money available, at least money being invested to create excessive valuations invested into hypertrends and often destroying what we have been building for so many years. We're seeing the destruction of stock exchanges regularly. Property markets are being destroyed, ruining the assets of many, many people. So these type of bubbles can cause a major economic downturn and breakdown. However, there is a twist in this. And the twist that we are seeing in these economic bubbles is the energy that is being released, just as with political bubbles. The larger the crisis, the more energy is there to counteract, for a counter movement, to address what is today addressable, what we need to change when we think about our environment, about world peace, and in terms of economic bubbles, when we think about the release of energy for creation, the ability to support invention and innovation, and to have new startups introduce new technologies into the market. So this is where we see an impact being created by a twist in a bubble. And these bubbles often arising when we have a major crisis, whether it's a dot-com crisis or the property crisis, and at this time, we certainly are facing a pandemic COVID crisis. So let's look at a few examples where startups, where companies have been going through a transformation process, taking a challenge to move it into chance and purpose. Here are 3 examples of companies, 2 of which you have seen in the year 2017 and 2018, here at the annual HighTech Venture Days program. Selecta, a company that enables sustainable and healthier food production, has been, when facing the pandemic, developing an enzyme for corona vaccine to come. Microsynthetics is a company that develops electronic hardware, especially in the field of healthcare, in order to support emergency call assistance for people in need. Or Lipotype, a company that has a strong focus on lipids and is a specialist in lipids, and which is currently looking how to counteract and how to fight the COVID infection results. When we look at technologies addressing climate change and protecting our environment, here again, we've decided to remind you of 3 companies, 2 which you've seen before, and 1 which 2 that you will see this year, 1 which we have seen before. Last year, we met Sunfire, a company that develops and manufactures systems for renewable industrial gas and fuel production. This year, you'll meet a company from Portugal in the space of e-mobility. They are electrifying truck cooling cells and aim to reduce CO2 emissions and noise pollution arising from traffic. Or BFAP, which converts CO2 emissions from industrial plants into biofuel and bioplastics. But we're not only looking at startups that are using their technology to address such a transformation process and bring about new products. We're seeing as well startups that are creating solutions that help us in solving economic issues. Being able to work at home or to be able to work remotely with so many offices that have to close has become a major issue this year. Analytics has developed a software which allows just that, so that we can set up our systems within 10 minutes and work remotely. Flynex, it's a very interesting company that is transporting medication with flown drives to medical staff that need to be around people that have caught this virus. Or a company called TriOptotech, a company which, again, you will meet this year, which under the brand of Difox has developed retrofit antimicrobial coatings for hospitals and public spaces, which effectively kills virus, bacteria, and fungi. Usually, they develop individual additives for industrial applications, such as varnish systems or wall paint. So, the good news here is these type of companies create jobs during a phase of crisis when we are seeing a lot of insolvency or companies that have to shorten their labor time. The other good news is that successful companies have been created at every turn of the cycle, in every crisis and after every crisis. And what I find most remarkable for our European ecosystem is that most of the private sector jobs in the last 25 years have been created in Europe by companies, by startups that are less than 5 years old. I think that's a very impressive balance when we're talking about the importance of our startup ecosystem in Europe. Venture capital is the major source who drives us forward. Venture capital is crucial. You as investors are crucial in this crisis. You help us through this transformation process. You allow startups to take the challenge, run with it, and turn it into purpose and chance. Each year, we do a lot of research in our organization and we publish a white paper in the context of this specific event. And each year we take a closer look at how the venture capital and startup ecosystem with regards to high technology has been developing over the last 12 to 18 months. We're very interested to see what is happening in this field during these crisis times. So this year, I would like to invite a colleague of mine to provide these insights to us. My colleague, Silvia, she is the ecosystem expert of our organization, and she's responsible for business development. So let us welcome her warmly to that stage.
Thank you very much, Bettina. So, hello. I'm very happy to give you some insights today.
I've just been speaking about this pandemic crisis. What are your observations with regard to startups during this times of crisis?
There's no presentation anymore.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so first of all, we have very good news because according to a survey of Station F, a French-based startup campus, over 90% of the startups in Europe that are venture-backed are going to survive the crisis. So what is of highest importance for them during risky times and uncertainties is the access to financial liquidity to buffer declines in sales or shrinking lead pipelines, for example. So getting those financial resources makes them able to adapt quickly to the changing context. So if they need to change their go-to-market strategies or if they need to manage delivery bottlenecks or even if they need to cut costs, they cut them in terms of marketing and HR expense, but not in terms of R&D or tech development. So this leads us to the last point, that even in times of crisis, European deep tech venture-backed companies create solid values for the European ecosystems, and they are even more profitable than their US peers. So as well, we see some trends emerging after the COVID-19 crisis. So what is really great to see is that over 80% of the startups are going to hire staff in the coming months, and almost 50% of them kept hiring staff during the crisis. And it's a fantastic time to hire new people, because in contrast to the shift of talent flows in the dot-com crash, right now there are no obvious safe havens into which talent might retrench. So four or five startups, 80% are going to hire, and this is a really great development, we think. So secondly, they will not pull back their international expansion plans. They will go on conquering their further target markets. And after the crisis, we think that they even will emerge stronger. They will have strong key learnings. They will have improved their business models and optimized their strategies. And good news for the investor side, startups are going to raise money in the next month, because they see delayed funding rounds due to COVID-19. So in Israel, for example, there are 75% of the startups going to raise money in the coming time, or in Germany, even 60% of the startups plan to raise money.
So when we take a step back and look at the overall investment activities within the European venture capital scene, what were your observations there?
Yes, so the last year has been a record year for European venture capital investments. So we see an amount of over 30 billion euro that went into European companies. So this number from 2015 has doubled. In contrast, the number of deals is 1/3 lower than 5 years ago. So mainly, this development is mainly driven by an increase in larger rounds. So if we take, for example, angel deals, a median deal size for an angel deals in 2012 had been 300,000 euro, compared to 2020, where we see 1.3 billion euro per angel deal. Or in Series D rounds, for example, the volume even has tenfolded from 2012 on. So this is a large trend. We see volumes are going to continue increasing, and even mega deals will be seen in the next months and years.
Now, if we look at this trend of mega deals at later stages, is there still something happening with small funds, or are they out of fashion completely now?
Yes, so of course, our beloved business angels, private and public venture funds or accelerators, of which we have many people here right now, are the lifeblood to nourish our startups in the risky phases. But one thing I would like to highlight as well is that first-time financings, first-time funds have their comebacks. So they are alive and kicking, and their number increased threefold from 2014. So it's a very crowded VC world they are confronted with, and they need to distinguish, of course. They need to show real expertise. And so they are now specializing in a strong way on the European strengths. So for example, food tech, sustainability or deep tech are focus areas in which they show a real sectoral expertise, and with small teams run a successful portfolio. And additionally, they create a strong profile to be competitive in the crowded VC market. So only 4 out of 26 first-time funds in 2020 claimed themselves as a generalist.
Staying for a moment with the question of how important technology is here in Europe, how do global investors in general, what do they think about technology made in Europe?
So there is a really great and increasing trust of corporate venture capitalists and global investors in direction to European tech. So if we look at the seed stages, for example, Europe accounts for the highest share of seed stages closed in 2019 with 38% of all global deals. And if we look at the later stages, we see even a greater involvement of global investors. So in 1 of 5 deals today, an Asian or American investor is involved. And in the later stage deals of over 50 million, for example, they even hold a 50% share. So observing these increasing stake of global investment, of course, it makes us happy, but it reminds us as well to not to be lazy. Right, so investors in Europe need to stay involved in the later stages too, and they need to increase their engagement to the same extent as global investors does, just to remain our global financial tech ecosystems competitive.
Well, I mean, we're reading, and we have been talking about this topic in the last 2 years extensively, even on that stage, that Europe is lacking funds for later stages. Can we at least stay now longer within investment portfolios, and can we support later stages better now?
Yeah, so like Obama said in its first campaign, yes, we can. So we see a record amount of VC dry powder in European funds as well as globally, and the money has to go somewhere, right? So if we only look at the 6 largest funds announced in 2020, they alone account for a sum of 2.5 billion euro. And if we go a little bit more into detail, we see, for example, a fund like Atomico 5 that tenfolded its volume from 2006 when it started. So we see a 70 million euro fund versus a 750 million euro fund in nowadays. So this record dry powder combined with the development that later stage deals will increase leads us to the expectation that the next unicorn era is right around the corner.
Unicorns? We're finally seeing unicorns. Just 4 years back, we were counting them more or less on one hand. Are there now unicorns actually being better or more often created in Europe?
Yes, so today we count globally for 483 unicorns. So does anybody of you know how many unicorns have been created in Europe so far? Nope. So I tell you, it's almost 200 unicorns that only Europe brought or birthed within the last decades. So venture capital is crucial for that, right? Over 80% of today's unicorns are venture-backed compared to only 20% a decade ago. So yeah, we need that money to back them. And what is remarkable too in Europe is not only the number of unicorns, but it's the spread across Europe where the unicorns are birthed. So we see many, many excellent regions that birth unicorns having large tech clusters, excellent universities, financial hubs, etc. So within the next years, the next unicorn come from everywhere in Europe.
Pretty impressive to see that unicorns can come from Kiev to Munich to Barcelona to any place now in Europe. And I think it's an impressive statistic that we're seeing how this ecosystem has been maturing. Now, what about exits? Investors obviously require exits.
Yeah, exits are not such a good topic today. So maybe we take a look into 2018, which has been an incredible year for European tech exits. So we saw a volume of almost 60 billion euro that went into exits, and it was the strongest year for IPOs since the year 2000, and we saw many, many strategic acquisitions. So unfortunately, 2019 and 2020 will not knock off our socks, and until this summer we only saw 230 exits in Europe with an amount of 3.7 billion. So with a potential push even into the year 2021 or later due to economic backdrops or the COVID-19 crisis, that's not such a good outlook for exits in Europe, actually.
Well, if exits isn't the flavor of the day today, what about first-time fundings? I mean, we know all investors need a very solid pipeline. Only 1 out of 2 first-time fundings will actually reach a second round of funding. And the percentage of companies reaching a later stage or a unicorn is below 1%. So here in Europe, we need to have a really rich pipeline of first-time projects. There? No? Okay.
I think you want to make me cry right now. So, no, unfortunately not. So, as we can see in this graph, since 2014, we face a massive drop in first-time financings in Europe as well as globally. So, it is a really hard time for first-time founders, and COVID-19 does not better their development. So investors, of course, are focused on their prior success stories. They are focused on their past track records, and they are not looking for the risky startup ideas right now. So it's really hard for first-time founders to raise money. But it shouldn't, right? Because there are lots of great ideas outside that would like to be discovered and that would like to be funded. For example, here at HighTech Venture Days.
So what, on the other hand, for us, describes a huge risk that we're running in Europe right now. On the other hand, shows as well that investors this year are very much looking after their own portfolio. Having said that, my question is, are there too many fat cats around by now? Are there still some of these small, greedy foxes looking for that new pioneer to come? And since we have been discussing this topic of such a small pipeline over the last 2 years, are there finally some venture capitalists out there who can see this risk?
Yes, of course there are. So as I told before, or as I said before, business angels, pre-seed funds, seed funds are still active, and of course carry the energy to bring our pioneers through the risky phases. But an interesting development is as well that other organizations, like the classical VC funds, are right now as well hopping into that phase. So for example, Atomico in 2018 launched the first edition of their angel program, where 12 tech ecosystem enthusiasts put their money into a pot and supported really early stage pioneers. So they invested so far in 35 companies, and we don't know their financial performance yet, of course. But what we know is that they invested so far in 37% of teams that had a female founder, and they invested into 43% of the companies with an impact focus. So this is a really great development. They already set up their second program in 2019, and they are inspiring even other organizations to do the same, to set up similar programs, such as the examples we put here, like Blossom, Hardcore, or Target Global, as well supporting right now those phases, those early phases.
Obviously, Silvia and me love the idea that there are going to be more female entrepreneurs being supported by specific funds, and we like the idea that impact investing has become much more important. At last year's event, we already discussed how evaluation criteria are changing when we're looking at SDGs, social development goals. So, coming back to last year's thought for a moment, are evaluation criteria, KPIs, continuously changing now? Are the KPIs as we used to know them still relevant, or what is happening there?
Yeah, so of course the traditional venture value driver are still important, right? So investors that are rating about personality and team, the market potential of the startup, or technological disruptiveness, and so on. So these criteria are, of course, not out to date, but we think that these KPIs and the persons who rate will extend in the next years. So we will see employees that play a much more important role. So they decide whether they want to work for a company that has a sustainable approach or a purposeful business. Or customers. Customers are the ones who decide if we can scale and if we can sell a product. So their opinion is very important too. And furthermore, the performance indicators that measure the valuation of a startup will extend to, for example, sustainability, a powerful business model, new risk strategies, or trust and loyalty, as only some examples.
So if you consider a really interesting, promising new startup that could be created in the years to come, how would that look like if it has to answer to all those criteria?
Yes, so in advance to this event, we fantasized a little bit, and we would like to present to you Safer Breeze. So let me introduce to you Aisha. Aisha is 28 years old and stems from Malaysia and made her PhD degree at the Technical University of Dresden. And this is where she met Günther. And Günther was a fellow student, and together they created Safer Breeze. So what does Safer Breeze do? Safer Breeze developed a hardware-based air pollution measurement system. So it's like a wearable IoT gadget that warns you when you reach a critical daily exposure of polluted air. So of course, their target markets are all large, polluted, dirty cities in the world, right? In the US, in Europe, in Asia. So what is it actually that makes Safer Breeze so successful in the future? Of course, first, they have a female founder, right? Second, they have built up a sustainable product. They know that a product will only scale when it's sustainable. And maybe it's not so surprising that 66% of the millennials say that they would pay even more for a product that is sustainable. So they are our future customers, and we need to know what their opinion is and what their purpose is. Safer Breeze will be a monster truck. Safer Breeze will do everything to be the best in class in terms of its tech. It will create a robust business model. It will focus really strong on the relevant areas and not play in multiple fields. As well, Safer Breeze has an adapted risk strategy in their supply chain management. So, for example, they have real-time digitalized supply chains reporting systems so that they always know what's going on there. It's very transparent. They are talking to local NGOs, to local partners to build up a strong network and to minimize the risk of maybe having the product not available, right, or in times of crisis to ensure that they can always provide their product to their customers. They, of course, provide fair working conditions like remote work, soft benefits for the employees, etc. And they are very focused on having a diverse team, so different gender, different culture, nationality, ages, and they benefit from that because all those employees show them what their customers want, right? So their customer base is very diverse and they need to understand what they want and what they like. And so the team builds a strong component of that. And last but not least, of course, Safer Breeze is venture capital financed. So when they need to grow and when they need to scale and go globally, they of course will need your financial support. So if anybody of you is interested in going to invest into Safer Breeze, maybe in 2025 or something, you're invited.
So this was a fantasy. That's fiction, not reality. However, we believe in our organization that companies will look like this much more in the times to come. So if in summary, we look at the pros and cons, at the strengths and the development of the European venture capital ecosystem, we're seeing that finally much more money is available for later stages. We just heard in the last couple of days the announcement that the German government is planning to spend 10 billion just on public funding for the startup ecosystem, which is about fourfold what the French government decided upon 3 years ago. But having said this, we see as well the risk that Europe remains a shopping ground for global investors, and we believe it's extremely important that the European venture capital community continues to mature and to stay involved, and that nobody forgets the importance of a full pipeline, because otherwise you're going to sit on a lot of money and no projects. Having said that, there is only a last idea that we would like to leave you with. Silvia and me, we would hope that we can continue to jointly create European ecosystems that allows pioneers to find a sound and sober ecosystem full of wisdom and venture capital to help them run with challenges to transform them into chances and opportunities. So with this, we thank you for your patience and listening to us. And we lastly will offer Alex now to continue with the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. Now it's my pleasure to walk you through the agenda, what you can expect today, tomorrow, in the HighTech Venture Days online format. But before we do so, we would like to state the obvious. For all the regulars being here, you know, or you can see that this year's HighTech Venture Days is a little bit different from what you know from the past. So I would first, before we start, say that we as a team did our best to put this event together to give you the chance to meet face-to-face or mask-to-mask, and not only online. And we really appreciate for you coming here, not only from Germany, but also other parts of Europe. So thank you for being here today. Yeah, that's for you. We would have loved to have even more here, but the situation is as it is. We make the best of it though, which means now it would be my turn to show you how you can still do all the meetings today here on site, but also online in the next couple of days. So this is what we have prepared for you. Today, we will have the presentations of the startups here on this very stage. These will be short elevator pitches, and between those pitch sessions, you will have the chance to talk to each other, have meetings. We have also a room downstairs, which is a bit more quiet, where you can talk about sensitive things. And this is what's all about today. So this is how we do it. We will have 3 batches of startups presenting on stage. And later on in the afternoon, we will give you also the opportunity to take a deep dive into our Dresden high-tech ecosystem. We have our partner of the Helmholtz-Zentrum, Dresden-Rossendorf, the HZDR here, and they will give you insights about their current technologies and maybe tomorrow's startups. This is what's happening here on stage today. The buffet and the food will be delivered as flying buffet, which means people will take care of your well-being and serve you with food all day. So this is more for the pragmatic things to come. And then in the evening, we are very pleased to have a keynote. As some of you may know, we have this year the 10th anniversary of our organization, the HTSB, and we are very pleased that Gunter Wobser over there, an entrepreneur, CEO of a 3rd-generation family business, will share insights about what it's mean to him being an investor and an entrepreneur. And we have also a panel on stage to give you an outlook what to expect in the future. So this is what's going to happen all here today and in the evening. And tomorrow, depending on how long you will stay here, we offer you a kind of hangover breakfast. It's not going to take place here, but in the Hilton Hotel. And please be invited to join us tomorrow before you leave in order to meet each other again. So this is all what's going to happening on site. Then, from Thursday, we will have our online format opening, which means we have much more people attending the HighTech Venture Days, but this year only in a digital way. And you have the chance from Thursday on to arrange meetings virtually. So from Thursday, you can chat with people, you can arrange meetings, and most relevant, you can also see the startup pitches online. On Friday, we continue. We then show the presentations of our partners, but obviously the most important thing there as well is also to arrange meetings. And then on next week, Monday and Tuesday, we have prepared some insightful panels for you to give you some latest trends and insights in current technologies. So this is what the online format looks. The fact that we can provide you with such a hybrid format with the on-site event here and with the online program would not have been possible without the support of our partners. This is not something that we take for granted, given this year and all the difficulties we had to face and our partners have to face. So we are even more grateful to have these great supporters with you. And we'll get to Angie and Global Foundries in a minute, but we would also say thank you to the other partners and maybe introduce some of them who are here today. So a regular attendee of HighTech Venture Days is Alain Leloup of Cottonwood. He's right over there. Say hi, Alan. The important thing for you to know is that Cottonwood is one of the very few venture capital funds in Europe doing hardware investments. So all the startups we recommend to get in contact with Alain and his colleague Marie. And also for the corporates among you, you should also consider talking to them because they have just closed their first closing for the current fund and have access to excellent deal flow. And if you're looking to get a touch of their deal flow, please feel free to get in contact with Alain and Marie. Also, we would like to say thank you to the city of Dresden. When we started the HighTech Venture Days program in 2013, the city of Dresden has been with us right from the beginning, and it's an important partner to us. So there we have some representatives, and if you want to know more about Dresden as a high-tech place, please get in contact with them. Today we have also a regular and a strong partner of ours, Invest Hong Kong, so Mr. Chung is with us. He can help you if you're interested to going abroad to explore the Asian market. We had some good experiences with him, so please feel free to reach out to Mr. Chung. Also, we have with us Carsten Serra of The Next Big Thing AG. Carsten, wave your hands. There he is, right in the back. Next Big Thing is a company builder, active in the ICT and microelectronics sphere. And they have also sent us some great startups this year for this event, so you should definitely talk to him. Then we have other Dutch friends with us of TD Shepherd, the guys over there. TD Shepherd is a corporate finance boutique, but they are run by former VCs and entrepreneurs themselves. They have a great network in the US, and for all the startups, we definitely recommend to talk to them. Then we have also here today the Technologiegründerfonds, or TGFS, Mr. Sören Schuster right over there, being responsible and also a strong partner. So for all the other VCs also interested in deal flow from the Saxony region, you should definitely talk to Sören. We have the Technology Center of Dresden with us, a great supporter, also for local startups. Torsten, where are you? So someone of them is here. If you want to get in contact, we'll bring to you him later. Unhide the Champions is our sister and spin-off format of the HighTech Venture Days. This is a kind of series of events where we bring startups and corporates together. This is not so much about fundraising, but more about initializing joint projects. So Thomas and Ulrike right over there, can give you further information. Then we have the Economic Development Agency of the Free State of Saxony right over there with Julius and Falk. They actually did initialize some deals before this very event because they are helping also foreign startups to get in contact with the Saxon industry. And if you want to explore Saxony as your entry market in Germany, you can talk to them. And last but not least, we have ZAZ Ventures with you, Stefan Descher. Where are you? I see, there he is. ZAZ is a pure performance-based grant writer, also with us in the last years. And actually, at last year's HighTech Venture Days, they helped one of the companies there to successfully apply for EU grant. So this is something, if you're considering EU grants for your own startup, to talk to him. So these were our partners, and now it's a special pleasure to welcome first Global Foundries on stage, being a strategic partner, and we are happy to have Mark Reschenbach with us. Some applause, please. Mark, what is Global Foundries doing?
Yeah, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me. Mark Reschenbach is my name, for Global Foundries, and me really to partnering with venture here on this place today with this innovative and creative community. Global Foundry itself stands for delivering differentiated semiconductor technology for a real range of high-growth markets. So this means we are really delivering the wafer, the micro-technology products, with a range of innovative IPs, rich offering include just some words, FinFET, FDX, perhaps you heard about, analog mixed signal. And we have a footprint really spanning 3 continents with a wide range of technologies on 200 and 300 millimeter wafer. So this means really like global around the world, delivering products to our customers. That's Global Foundries stands for.
Perfect. And what is Global Foundries doing with startups?
Well, Global Foundries is also driving the focus and the competency on the microelectronics in Europe and in Germany. Innovation needs to result in products at the end. And what we are looking for is really to create an ecosystem that means bringing together the startups in a strong collaboration with the experienced companies like we are doing, together with innovation centers, together with universities, and really with the focus on the long-term development and investment, especially in Europe, for the microelectronics.
Okay. So what is the benefit for startups of working with Global Foundries?
I think in general, we have to learn from each other. We can learn from startups like creativity, like thinking in new ways, in different ways, agile project work. And I think the startups can learn from us how to be continuity in work, to make thinking, innovation into business process and deliver quality to customers. That's something I think both parties can share each other.
So thank you. So if you're interested to know more about Global Foundries, please meet them also downstairs at the booth. They have a fancy VR classes with them, so you can take a virtual round through their production plant. And you will also see Global Foundries at our online panel on microelectronics on the 19th. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us.
Thanks to you. Thanks.
And now we try an experiment, try to get to connect it with Angie. So Nigel, can you see us?
Yes, indeed.
Can you hear
Great
us?
to be here.
Even better. So this is Nigel of Angie. Nigel, we just started to introduce our partners, and of course Angie has been with us since 4 years now, supporting the HighTech Venture Days. For those in the audience who don't know Angie yet, could you give us some insights, what you're doing, what Angie is a kind of company?
Sure. So Engie is a renewable power, gas and energy services utility headquartered in Paris with a footprint in more than 70 different countries worldwide. It's a global reference in low carbon energy and services whose purpose is to accelerate the transition towards a carbon neutral world through reduced energy consumption and more environmentally friendly solutions. One of the tools to achieve this strategy is, of course, Engie New Ventures.
What are you looking for at Engie New Ventures?
So maybe just a little bit about Engie New Ventures, which we call ENV. Founded in 2014, ENV is the corporate venture capital arm of Engie. It's a 180 million euro fund that's dedicated to making minority investments in companies which are highly scalable, with a disruptive business model or technology, combined with a defendable competitive advantage. I think that it's important that the fund aims specifically to bring 3 clear advantages to the group: to create strategic options for ENGIE through investments in external innovative companies and facilitating the creation of commercial collaboration between ENGIE and the external startup; provide early access to the external innovation ecosystem. I think it's key. The energy transition ecosystem is a small, tightly knit network of investors and companies, and ENV aims to be part of that ecosystem and provide ENGIE with access to the latest trends and innovations happening in it. And then, of course, generating direct financial value. Investments create a combination of strategic and financial value for ENGIE. I think, in short, we realise all the clever people don't work for ENGIE, that innovation can happen anywhere, that creating disruption today is not about who you work for, but more about who you can partner with. And as someone said recently, the best way to change the future is to create it, and the second best way is to finance it. And that's what we try to do, be part of the journey.
Okay, so these are the benefits that you bring for the ENGIE group. What is the benefit for startups of working with ENGIE?
I think it's important here to dwell on this. We're a CVC, which is a corporate venture capital fund, as opposed to a financial VC. So our value prop is clearly to help startups access the market. I think when you look at it, startups and the people who work from them are many things. They're creative, agile, driven to succeed, but some things they can struggle with through no fault of their own. And one of those things is getting access to the market. Industrials, by their nature, can be risk averse, and trying to get access to them as a startup can indeed be problematic. However, being introduced to the market under the umbrella of the ENGIE brand can simplify this process enormously and speed up the scaling up of the startup. It's key to remember we also provide commercial projects, new business, and a legitimacy for early startups that can be hard to establish on their own. And we also provide capital. However, it's fair to say that good ideas do not lack capital. Our ability and our clear value prop is to help startups access the market. And this is the key separator for ENV from other investors.
So thank you. And then my final question, why are you supporting HighTech Venture Days?
So innovation, as I said, comes from everywhere and anywhere. And we've been extremely impressed with the caliber of the companies which you've seen in the past at the HighTech Venture Days, and this year's crop are no exception. It's important that as a Paris and French-based VC, we are able to access the clean tech ecosystems of other countries and to be present there, to see and also be seen, hence our reasoning for supporting this event.
And we are very grateful. So this is your applause.
Thank you very much.
So thank you, Nigel. And then, by the way, you can meet a colleague of Nigel, Laurent, at the hydrogen panel on next Monday in our online format. So this would be it with the introduction. Now we would go over and having finally hand over the say and the word to the startups. And this will be done by my colleague Annemarie, announcing the startups. And now we wish you good fun and some insights in Europe's latest high-tech trends.